Yeah, absolutely. I think we are seeing the difference. So we're seeing one thing we're seeing with the cost of living is quite polarized behaviors. During COVID, we saw that while there was some polarization in some categories like alcohol, where people were either drinking more because of boredom or making the fun at home, creating that bar-like environment at home and using it as a way to socialize at home. On the flip side, we saw people cutting down on alcohol as well because of health reasons and saving money as well. But generally we saw quite a consumers behaving in similar ways when it came to stockpiling, when it came to purchasing habits, when it came to health and hygiene and germ prevention. So we obviously saw a big spike in cleansing and personal hygiene products. So we saw like a general behavior or general, regardless of the types of people, we saw a general shift in one way. Whereas cost of living crisis is creating quite a bit of a polarization right now, not just among people who are lower income or higher income, but also the way people are approaching it in terms of their optimism towards their own futures, and also in terms of having had 2 years of lockdown and restrictions. They're not quite ready to cut back yet. So we're seeing quite divergent behaviors, and it's quite
Hmm.
interesting right now whether that will
Yeah,
continue or not.
I feel like we're only sort of coming out of COVID. You know, it's something that we're still trying to understand what the world's going to look like.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like the big difference for me between what's happening now and with COVID is that in COVID there were kind of two things. It was really sudden, right? It happened just overnight. We all probably had flights we were supposed to get on, and then our company shut us down. Then came in, government interventions where we couldn't move. If we look at the stat that we have on the screen right now, this is kind of trickling in, right? It's 70% are noticing it, and 1 in 3 of these feel like it's significant. So it's not something that just happened overnight like COVID did, and the world just changed. This is something that's creeping in, and we're starting to see the impact coming in a different way, which I think is, and Vidisha, you hit it. It's that 1/3 of the people that see it, they're getting hit hard, right? If you rely a lot on your gas, and you have kind of a smaller income, this is going to be big for you.
Of
If
course.
if that's not the situation that you're in, it's easier to not notice this. Whereas with COVID, we all know, it happened, and we were in our houses and couldn't breathe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple differences. I mean, definitely what Walt had talked about, but I think also with COVID, it was kind of the first real big pandemic that people were kind of digesting. So I think the frame of mind there versus the inflation was a little bit different. Like Walt said, it was a little bit sudden, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Now this inflation, it's kind of something else that's big and coming on. And I think people are a little bit, I don't say prepared for it, but are understanding it, like, okay, having some coping, mechanisms to get through it. I know especially some of our younger consumers are like, everyone thinks everything's a pandemic, and it's like that's just what they've grown up with, like yeah, just something else that we have to think about. So I think that mindset is a little bit different. I also think, I mean, just particularly with our category, the easiest thing is with COVID. I mean, you were literally shutting down stores, so people couldn't get to the stores. So that was just a whole issue of, or, like Vidisha said, stockpiling, which doesn't really bode well for an impulse category. Whereas now the stores are open, but now there's a different challenge of just making sure that we're actually getting in their basket, because now if they're more conscious of what they put in their basket, they're thinking a little bit more about the choices that they're making. So I think that's probably a big difference that we see within COVID versus the inflation.